So you ready? All right, welcome guys. This is a presentation for a service learning teaching assistant program that we offer here at WVU. And as you can see, this will be a recording. This is not helping us talk louder. It's for the microphone, just so you guys know. Oh. Okay. And my name is Kayla Mobley. I am a senior studying sport and exercise psychology with a minor in communication studies. I am an SLTA for small group communication, COM 112, assisting with Ryan Thompson. I did this program because I really like the idea of volunteering. I volunteer all the time, not even for a class. I love it. It's just something different than getting paid for it. I like doing it because I want to. So I like that aspect of it, and I really like small group communication because you're always going to be having to work with people, and if you don't have those skills and the knowledge to work with them, it's going to be an unpleasant experience. I mean, you're working for the majority of your life. You're going to have to know how to work with people. So I really like this course. And my role in the class is to be the middleman for the community partners and for the class. So if there's any issues with students when they're volunteering or I don't know, anything like that, or I'll be there for the students. So if they have any questions, they want to come to me before they ask Ryan or before they ask the faculty member. If they'd rather, I don't know, I answer pretty quick. Of course, I always have my phone glued to me. So I think also students have really utilized that to get a quick response. So yeah.
My name is Lucas Miller. I'm a senior music therapy student. I assist with Music 185, with the Introduction to Music Therapy with Dr. Dina Register. The reason why I chose this course to help out with is because this is some people's first look at what music therapy is and what we need to do in order to become successful music therapists. Our entire profession kind of revolves around rapport building and making sure that we can have that communication and that relationship with our clients. And that's what their main project is for the entire semester. They have to log 15 hours of community engagement from a list of community partners that we have selected so they can learn how to build that rapport. And that is kind of where I come in. I am the front man for that. So if they have any questions about that, I also look at their hours. I review their reflections that they have to write. They have to write 3 of them throughout the entire semester. And I also just do some various activities throughout the classroom, and I'm in contact with our community partners quite often.
Hello everyone, my name is Riley Dyer. I am a 5th-year senior. I was an SLTA for Leadership 201. I assisted Dr. Amina Anderson. The main reason I really became an SLTA was after leaving Leadership 201, my own personal experiences. I had a really profound personal growth within myself. And I really wanted to bring that to a more educational light and put that in perspective for the students that I'm being an SLTA for. I wanted to kind of foster the learning that happens internally as well as educationally. And the way that I do that in my role in the class is really just kind of being a peer for the students and making them feel comfortable throughout these service learning projects and facilitating communication between Dr. Anderson and the students. Making sure that they're kind of really on track with where they need to be with their service learning project and meeting their hour requirements for the course.
My name is Donnie Shoup. I'm a senior multidisciplinary studies major, and I helped with the WVU Peer Advocate Program and also with SPED 304, which is Special Education and Contemporary Society. SPED 304 actually didn't have a TA until this semester, so it was kind of a trial run for us. And I assisted Sam Wilmoth with the Peer Advocate Program and also Dr. Alex Hollow with SPED 304, who coordinated 7 different sections. So I added a lot of students. But for the Peer Advocate Program, my major role was to help facilitate classes as well as facilitate events that we have and track students' hours as they were logging for their service learning. And also for SPED 304, I mostly had contact with our community partner, Stepping Stones, and tried to set up times for our students to go and do their out-of-class service project, where they actually went and spent an hour or 2 at Stepping Stones and were able to interact with some of the members they have there, and then they had to write a reflection based on it. So that's pretty much what I did in the class. I got involved because I had taken both of those courses, and I took a lot out of each of them. Actually, SPED 304 kind of guided me into clinical rehab and counseling. This is what I want to do with my degree for my master's. And for the peer advocate program, I just really like what they are based on and like what they preach about. So that's.
Hey guys, I'm Kelsey Kuzma. I'm a senior exercise physiology student, and I also worked with the WVU Peer Advocates alongside Mariana Matthews and Christine Jacobs. So some of my major roles within the course are similar to what Donnie's experience was, but I created homework assignments for the students, logged and approved iServe hours, as well as served as a role model since I took the course. I kind of made an example for the students of how our program runs. And I decided to get involved and continue to be involved as an SLTA with the program because I love, again, what they stand for, and I want to continue to advocate for prevention and awareness of power-based personal violence on campus.
So one of the first points we're going to hit is the faculty perspective of an SLTA, so why you as a faculty member should have an SLTA in your classroom. So it helps reduce workload, and these are just a few of the things. There's lots of benefits. Reduced workload, personal connection with SLTA, new and more ideas, an insider view, and honest opinion. So we kind of give faculty members a peace of mind knowing that someone else is there to help with the class, someone else that is going to be professional, that is going to help better the students' learning within the class. And also this lets the professors spend more time on more important things. So if it's like a silly question that a student has, they're not going to have to go to them. They can come to us. And I have a pretty big class. All of us have really different classes, honestly, besides you two. But I have over 80-something kids in my class, and there's like 18 community partners. So it's a lot to maintain. And so it kind of gives the students someone to give them one-on-one interaction with, because when you're just one student out of those 80-something kids, it's going to be really hard to get the professor's attention to help with something or whatever. So I think that was a very valuable resource. And since we've taken the class, we know the material, and we can be trusted with helping them. Like I said, I help with study review sessions, so that's a great thing to utilize for the teachers, to have us do that for them, because that saves them a lot of time.
So potential benefits to the community partner, definitely whenever I was working with the SPED 304 class, I was definitely in contact with Stepping Stones at least probably once or twice a week, making phone calls, sending emails, trying to get everything set up. We actually started in July to set up everything just because it was the first time we were doing this program, so I figured we probably should start early just so that way we can iron anything out while we see it before the actual semester starts, because I had 210 students, I believe. I had 7 different sections, so there was around 200 students. And in the communication process, there were some ups and some downs, especially with how many students had to go there. So there were some times where we had to like kind of step back and be like, okay, are we going to continue this in the future? What are we going to do differently? But the communication overall, there was actually a good flow of communication. So we never were kind of just like emailing them or calling them and no one was answering. It was always an answer. It was just more figuring out how to better what we were trying to do. And also with maintaining relationships, I kind of got to know some people at Stepping Stones that I really didn't get to know before. So I was in contact with them a lot, and then also just building a relationship with Dr. Hollow. I took her, she was actually my instructor for SPED 304, and then I kind of did some research with her over the summer, and then she asked me if I wanted to potentially be a TA for her. So her and I have gotten rather close since we started this back in July.
So benefits to the students involved in our course. So as I mentioned before, all the SLTAs have taken the courses that we are working with, so we can give them kind of an insider view of our past experiences and I guess speak from experience to help them with their learning experience as well. Also, peer-to-peer education is such a big aspect to our role as an SLTA. So for example, in the peer advocate program that I work with, when we have events as a TA, I will kind of set the stage, lay out the expectations for what the students should be doing, and then they can learn from that. They can learn from how I interact with students, and then a very beneficial thing, in my opinion, is they can then take that and teach somebody else in the program how to do that as well. So it kind of trickles down the line like that.
So how a faculty member can best utilize an SLTA? I'm going to speak from my personal experience because I can't speak for everyone here. But I was definitely a means of open communication. So for Dr. Register, she really talked to me a lot about what I gained from the class, from my previous experience as being a student within it, and what we could do to make it a little bit more beneficial for the students that are taking it now or in the future. And that kind of falls into the roadmap and the expectations as well. For the open communications, I'm also very open with my students that I have. It's allowed me to create a semi-professional persona to them, as well as being someone who they can go to as another student who can understand what's going on in their student life and their day-to-day life and what's going on with that. For the specific responsibilities, I kind of touched on that in my intro. I do a lot with their community engagement project, with their 15 hours that they have to do. I always make sure that they are on track. If they're not, I always email them and say, okay, well, what is your plan? If you cannot come up with a plan, get in contact with me, and we'll try to figure something out with me, Dr. Register, and your community partner, so you can be successful and make the biggest impact that you can on your personal development and on the development for the community partner. I also have frequent meetings with Dr. Register. We meet at least twice a week right after the class happens to kind of compare notes on where we see our students. If there's any break in communication while they're doing really well with their community engagement, they might not be doing so well with their coursework. How can we transfer what they're doing in their community engagement into their coursework in order to make them a more successful student, or vice versa? We also just go over what I'm seeing from a student perspective as well, just kind of continuing on with that. And then I also do the same thing that Kayla has talked about with the review sessions. They only really have one semester or one test a semester, and it's pass-fail. And they kind of feel a little uneasy about that, even though they really shouldn't be. But I go over like what they need to be concerned about with it, what they really need to know. And then I also just talk to them about like how their flow of their papers go that they have to turn in, if there's any editing that I can do for them. And then also if they just want to talk to me to see what it is as an upperclassman in music therapy that's going into their master's. What it's like on a day-to-day basis, like what I have to do with planning, what I have to do with my own coursework, what I have to do with my clients and the typical sites that I see.
So being in SLTA is quite challenging but quite fun at the same time. It's and not everyone is really well suited to be an SLTA, so we came up with a list of things that might really project what an SLTA, a good SLTA might be. The first thing, which I think is obviously the most important for very obvious reasons, is just having experience in the course and having taken this course prior. You know, and I touched on this a little bit earlier in my intro. I had a really personal impact with me after I finished Leadership 201, and I wanted to get in on an educational level, but I wanted to use that educational level as growth for these students, and I couldn't have done that without prior experience in this course, and I couldn't have fostered any of their learning further without being able to connect leadership theories and tying them into the community service that they were doing. And that kind of brings me to my second point, and the class that I was a TA for, which was Leadership 201. I think it's very important for an SLTA to have many leadership qualities, and not only see the leadership qualities in themselves, but see the leadership qualities that they have in other students. I'm taking a course right now called Leadership 401, and we learned about strengths-based leadership, and I think it's really important to take the students that you are TAing for and really focus on their strengths and tie them into their own community projects and how they can benefit from that. And it's really important to know your role with the community in that process, because it's not just you having direct communication with community partners, it's how your service towards the students affects the service that they do towards the community partners, and it really is just a chain of service. And I think that's the really important thing about community service, is you have to keep that chain going and continue the service and make it really resonate with people in a way that sits with them. And that just goes with maturity as well. You're not going to resonate with these experiences unless you really put forth the effort and kind of put yourself in a position to gain things out of these community service projects that you do. And I really tried to emphasize that in the course, and I really tried to keep the students on track, and even if they fell out of track, I really wanted to let them know that it's okay to not be in a position where you feel comfortable and you can bounce back from that. Being a team player and having openness is extremely important. I mean, you're working with a professional, you're working with doctors and professors, and you're putting yourself in a very more professional situation, giving yourself room to grow, not only professionally, but emotionally, internally, and physically as well. I think it's really important to be open to the students that you are at SLTA for, because your openness to them leads to comfortability, and them being comfortable leads to them being open with you. And as the more open they are with you, the more comfortable they feel coming to you with issues that they may have with their project. And finally, that kind of just brings us to our last point. You can't be a successful SLTA unless you put forth the effort. To put it plain and simple, the more effort that you put in as an SLTA, the more that you're going to gain from the course. And sometimes you're going to hit roadblocks, and like path goal theory, which is a theory used in Leadership 201, you're just going to have to get through those obstacles. And I really believe that the more you apply yourself, the more you gain out of situations, and I think that's what I gained a lot from being an SLTA.
So what did we as SLTAs learn that can help future SLTAs? So the big thing here, what I always like to say, is communication is key. So whether that be communication between you and your faculty partner, you and your community partner, or you and your students, you always want to keep open lines of communication, always check in with the people you're working with so everybody stays on the same page. We want to stress that unity between the three aspects there, and not look at it as, I guess, a separation. Also, be flexible with your schedule. Not everything you do is going to go smoothly the first time you do it. So the big thing when that happens is to learn from those experiences and carry that to future semesters when either you're an SLTA or pass that knowledge on to future SLTAs as well. Plus, like I said before, since we've all experienced the courses, we are technically experts in the course already. So we can use our experiences and apply that to what we're doing in the course.
So these are some of the program recommendations we have compiled. Keep variable hours. So right now it is offered. You can pick whatever's the best for the course. So 1 to 3 credit hours. So 1 credit hour would be 20 hours of service, 2 credit hours would be 40 hours of service, and 3 credit hours would be 60 hours of service. And different ways to accumulate these hours. Like we said, going to class. You can count all of that for your hours, be there for the students if they have any questions. The more that you show the students you're in class and that you're going to give them the effort, the more that they're going to rely on you and come to you. So that's super crucial. Another way is, like I said, I host study sessions, so that is a good amount of hours right there. You got to plan for them. Anything like that, responding to emails, anything, honestly, regarding the class, you can count as service hours. Allow students to be an SLTA for multiple semesters. I feel like I'm a pretty good example for this. I've worked with Ryan Thompson now for 2 semesters, and he had never taught the class the first time I worked with him. And we definitely made a lot of mistakes the first semester, and we've really learned the differences. I mean, just signing students up for stuff and just how the class should flow. So I think it's really important that if you're considering becoming an SLTA, that you want to do this more than just 1 semester. You want to keep it going. You want to keep this program growing, and that way you have like a clear role. You know what you want the students to look at you as. If you want a more standoff approach, that's fine. That's whatever. You know how to show the students that. Access to Blackboard. So this year I didn't have access to Blackboard, which was kind of inconvenient because when I did host the study sessions, I would have to send it to Ryan, and then Ryan would have to send it out. So having access to it would allow me to have the students' emails. Also, it would let us have the syllabus so we could look up information on projects. So if a student comes to us with a question, we can direct them the right way. Also, any dates and stuff when you need to be in class, when there's something due. I always make it very clear that my class this semester is just once a week. So I was always there for every class, but when I had the Tuesday, Thursday section last year, I made sure to come at least on every day they had a graded something. So if they had a project with the class, or if they were showing their presentations or an in-class paper, I always made sure I was there because I wanted to make sure the students knew if it affected their grade, I will help them, whatever. And We want to make this course more widespread, like throughout the campus, because not only is that going to help the university reach out more into the community with volunteering, this is also an awesome course to get involved in. I mean, I've learned so many skills like we've gone over. It's invaluable. This class has been awesome. Make service assessment available for future SLTAs. So our service assessment is called an impact report, and we have to do one for every semester, and it's going to show how our class that we're working with has impacted the community. So how many hours the class has provided, and then we calculate how much like impact that was in dollar value. It's like $20.98. Ooh, I got it right. Per hour. And so I mean that number gets up to thousands, and it's a big number. So that's also shown on there. Any of the positive, we try to keep it more positive. We put the positive comments, the really good ones from the people out in the community that they say about our students. So that's really cool to set the goal, set the bar for the next SLTA to see this is what they did last year, either reach this or go better than that. And then the last thing, easier communication between SLTAs and students. That relies back onto the Blackboard thing. Just having that open communication and being able to email the students if you need to, or have them be able to email you. Pretty much just that. And then now we're going to overview the benefits of the program from an SLTA perspective. So I personally would say the biggest benefit I got from this would be the connections I've made with Ryan Thompson. It has really helped me because I can really look up to him, and it's invaluable having someone that is so successful in their field to like mentor you. And so it's been really cool having someone to always go to, like I'll drop in his office, say hey or whatever. And so that's definitely helped my role in the classroom as well, because he knows he can trust me. So that was definitely one of the benefits. And also, it does really help your resume. I mean, I have a pretty good reference letter now. I mean, you can look at this. I mean, there's tons of benefits from it, but you can still look at it from a selfish point of view. It is great for you. It develops so many of your characteristics, so many of your personality traits, stuff like that. And I love it.
What I gained from this is actually the direction that I would really like to go with my master's. I have already set aside the specific population that I would really like to focus on in my music therapy work, but also going into maybe my terminal degree, whether I want to do more research-based or more of the teaching-based, because this course kind of allowed for both of it. I was able to get that teaching aspect with grading, giving small lectures, and doing that with the class, but I'm also doing the research of how their community engagement is impacting them, as well as impacting the community, and impacting the music therapy department in the School of Music within our university. I also got to really know my professor a lot more, Dr. Dina Register. I knew that she did a lot within the music therapy world, like literally world. She's known in Thailand, China, everywhere. She works with the Certification Board for Music Therapists as a government relations officer. It's not exactly the term for it, but she does a lot of work with introducing legislation in order to make the MTBC credential recognized within states, so people can't go to a hospital and say, hey, I'm a music therapist, and not have the degree and the credential for that. So I got to learn a little bit more about what she does in that aspect, and if I would want to be interested in it. Then from the selfish point of view, I got to learn a lot about my time management and how I could better utilize my time for my benefit and the benefits of my students, and also Dr. Register's time. I also just learned a lot about how I work. If I want to be more professional, if I want to be more cool guy to the students, I don't know. So I try to keep a good blend of the two. I send professional emails, but if they come out to me, I'm like, sure, let's chat, whatever. But yeah, it's been a wonderful experience for me, and I'm going to try to see if I can force myself into another class next semester.
For me, it's and I could go on and on about the amount of personal growth that I had with my leadership class, but the reason that I became an SLTA was to really have more of a direct impact on the students when trying to get them to perceive my view of how the service learning can come to fruition, and kind of see them a better version of themselves. And I have really seen that throughout my semester. It's been for seeing the students go from not really sure what they were going to do to presenting their final presentation and having such a good time with their community partners and realizing the impact of what they actually did. And from my personal experience, I really I consider myself a very good leader. And putting yourself in an SLTA position makes you become a leader. And it really makes you kind of delve into your own personal strengths and weaknesses and kind of tie them into your SLTA position and improve the class in any way possible that you can.
I would say that the most I got out of this was the connection with the faculty members. I actually, like I said, I knew Dr. Holler from a couple semesters ago, and then also Sam I met last year when he joined the university, but just the connection I made with them, like now you can go in their office and just talk about whatever you want. No matter how serious it is or how relaxed it is, you're pretty much just a friend to them. Also, the SPED 304 class, I definitely kind of turned me towards, like I said, my master's program. So I'm going to go into counseling or rehab, clinical rehab, and then also like the selfish point, the resume builder. It does look good, and I have already gotten like 3 offers for reference letters for grad school. So it's definitely something to get a part of if you can, just because of the leadership role you take and also how it's going to better your career.
And so in my future, I wish to pursue a job in victim advocacy. So I feel like a lot of the time when you choose a profession, you only see it from an outside perspective. So as an SLTA with the WVU Peer Advocate program, I was able to see kind of the behind-the-scenes perspective of what the job would entail for me. And I can honestly say that it definitely solidified my passion for my career path, and I'm now confident in what I want to do after I graduate. So it was definitely a great experience for me.
Okay, any questions?
That means we did a good job.
Well, I think you did an amazing job. And I did not teach this course. I'm practically moved to tears just hearing what you gained from it. And as I hear you talk about what will help other service learning TAs, you bring up these qualities that employers absolutely want. Most employers would rather hire somebody who is strong with communication, is flexible, who can be organized, who can be self-directed, who is capable of carrying out good teamwork. Those qualities are typically more important to an employer than specific experience in the field. Most would say, I will train somebody if they can bring these qualities. Clearly you did. You also articulated them really well. So when you're in those job interviews, bring up those same qualities, because those are the critical skills that our workforce needs. Great job.
Thank you.
So I didn't tell you to put this in your presentation, but one of the things I would love you to speak about a little bit is the fact that in addition to all the service that you did with the courses, that we had our regular class. What do you think are some of the benefits of our classroom discussion and what that dynamic is like?
I can take a lead on this. I think it's kind of really important to meet with us as SLTAs because she said earlier, other than these two, we kind of all have separate classes and ways that we go about how we do our service learning and how the service learning affects the courses differently. And I think it's really important to kind of meet and collaborate ideas and kind of see the differences of how the service learning is taking place and you know, we can implement each other's ideas into different courses. And I mean, she's taken this course twice. She's going to take it 3 times. So she was able to help us with a lot of things that we were unsure of, including this presentation. So it's like there's a lot of things that I think can come out of having our weekly meetings. And I think without them, it can kind of get confusing for SLTAs without hearing other perspectives from everyone else.
And I think it's a really nice little support group. I mean, I feel like we became pretty good friends. I mean, we were all like hanging out before this and just. I think it's great, and it also really solidified the true meaning of service learning. It is tied together. Not trying to be cheesy, but it is really important that you are taking something from the service you are doing. It's not just volunteering. It's not just service in the community. You can gain skills out of this, and by being selfless and not looking at it for monetary whatever, getting money out of it, I think you do gain a lot internally. So the class really helped. I mean, we read articles and we'll reflect on them and lead class discussion in our once every other week class. And so, I mean, it's just been a great time to also to share our experiences, or maybe if we're unsure of our role in class, or we think we did something wrong, or just confused on how to approach a situation, we have 5 other point of views, and we can really make sure that we know what we're doing. So that's awesome.
Yeah, touching on what both of them did is, being the nerd that I am, I really like reading the research on service learning, just because my field is very research driven, and so I'm always reading articles anyway. It was kind of refreshing not to read about music therapy and psychodynamics and things like that. It's great. But in order to see the impact that service learning has, not just on a local perspective, but on a global perspective, and seeing, like, if we would take some of the ideas from some of these research and implement them into our program, how it would be to the benefit or be to the detriment, just because every program is so unique.
What are some things that you hear from the students that you work with in terms of how you aid their learning? Or, I mean, do any of you have those connection? Or?
Yeah, I have a smaller class of about 25, so I've really got to know them pretty well. So it's really interesting to see their growth, because I have a class that is probably about 95% freshmen, maybe 90%. And it's interesting to see their growth between being a high school senior when they come in and they still kind of continue that mindset and grow into being a college freshman and learning what it means to really dive into their field that they're really interested in, and seeing their development in that. And we can kind of foster that relationship, saying, okay, is this what you want to do? If it is, cool, that's awesome. We can totally get you that way. Or is this not what you want to do? That's fine, but what did you get out of this so you could take it on to your profession that you want to do? Because we have a senior jazz studies who kind of took it just to see what was going on and what music therapy is. And he's taking a lot of his that information that he took from rapport building in order to better perform his songs to connect with his audience more, because jazz is all about the emotion and the feeling. Well, most music is, but jazz especially. So it was really interesting to see the development of my students and see how they would start coming to me as a more personal level.
Kind of piggybacking on that question, actually, how would you respond to students that did not know it was a service class before they joined and are a little bit confused or overwhelmed by what service means in a college class? How do you reach on a college student level down? And I kind of explain that relationship between the class and the service.
Well, this is kind of where I felt like I came in a lot, because that's where I changed when I went to Leadership 201 and I went through the course. I went in with no idea what I was going to do. And after I left the course, I had such an incredible experience of stepping stones, and I really wanted to continue that feeling. And I wanted to make sure that the students that were having the same feelings that I was having at the beginning of the class, I wanted to show them what they could gain out of this. And it's okay to have that feeling, because that feeling is where you need to start to end at the finish line where I was. And I really wanted to show them that. And I think me being there was kind of that, okay, well, he did it, he wasn't comfortable with it, but he came out of it with such a wonderful experience that I could too. And I really saw that through a lot of the reflection processes in the presentations that they did for their community projects. And that's really the biggest role that I think I played in my course.
I guess I can kind of relate to that too, because when I took the first section of Peer Advocates, which is now that I'm TAing for, I really didn't know what was involved, and then they said, oh, you have to do 60 hours of service learning, and I was like, that's a lot. But once you get into the program, you see how many opportunities there are to get those hours. I ended up with like probably 85 to 90 hours by the end of the semester, just because you get so involved. And now this semester that I'm TAing for it, you actually can kind of give those students, like, it's okay, I know it sounds like a lot of hours, but there's plenty of opportunities to do it. And we always send like check-in emails. We were always like, hey, just so you know, these are the events we have coming up. These are around the hours you should be. Get your hours in so we can get them approved. So we kind of just were able to calm them down a little bit, even though like make it known that these hours are important, you need to get them in, but also don't panic at the beginning of the semester because you have plenty of time to get them in.
And I think a big thing too is helping them find the purpose for doing their service. So what's unique about the course that I work with is the students were able to pick their service project So they could pick something they're passionate about. So now their service is that much more meaningful because they're working with something that they're passionate about. So if you help them define their passion or their purpose in the service, then I think that'll kind of help the service not be as like something they have to do, but something they want to do.
We relate ours to the music therapy field because for our typical session with clients, we usually see them on a 12-week course. So we give them the 15 hours pretty specifically so we can kind of mimic what's going on in their music therapy life, because if you cannot create that rapport within the first two or 3 sessions that you meet with your client or with whoever you're meeting, you might want to start rethinking how you're going about things. So it's all about trying to come at it at different approaches and reframing where you're going so you can be more successful as a student, as their community partner, and as a music therapist in general.
And for my class, I want to add one comment too. A lot of students take it for a general class, G, C, G, E, F. So when you tell them that they have to do service, a good bit drop. A few people do drop out, and I mean that tells you right there they didn't want to be a part of something bigger than just a class. So I think it's really important that when students do take it, you make it very clear that this is what you're going to do, because not only are you not going to be fulfilling your role in the community that you just said you would, you're going to be letting your group down. So it's just really important that they understand that service is a huge component of the class.
Did any of you did any of you learn anything about professional conflict resolution, either with a student, with a community partner, faculty member? Can you say something about that?
Mine was mostly with just, I think, once we got to the actual part where our students went and actually were doing their service, it became overwhelming because like stepping stones was like, okay, like bring those students in, but I don't think my students understood like how much time stepping stone takes out of their days with like running classes and everything to take these students in and have them help. So I got an email like in the middle of the semester, and it was like, okay, we need to think about a new way to have this happen because we have students randomly showing up and interrupting classes and other things that they hold there.
Oh, they just showed up, just walked in.
Yes. And they were, I think it was just miscommunication between stepping stones and myself, and then myself to our instructor, just because we needed to make sure they set up a time where they weren't like in the middle of something, but they also got the full experience. So we're in the process of thinking of how we're going to fix that for next semester and future semesters if we choose to have an SLTA.
I have one situation in particular to talk about. So I know I have 2 students of mine in here, so but we had, like I said, we had multiple groups going out to multiple different community partners, and we had some working with the Morgantown Marathon. And apparently, some of these students in this group didn't want to go at the desired time, which part of the class is 10 hours together. You are working at a community partner. And then, if that wasn't bad enough, they stole pizzas from the event. So I got an email from the director of it, from the Morgantown Marathon, and Ryan and I discussed like how we're going to approach this, how we're going to handle this, and we pretty much said we'll take it out on their student evaluations that you guys just did. And so their group members even wrote about it in there, so we made sure to take it out there, and we talked to the group and made sure that didn't happen again.
I kind of have a unique experience with this because with this being my second undergraduate degree, I had a job where I was a general manager of a pretty large retail store, and so I already had to have that professional conflict resolution skill. But I got to transfer it into an education setting to people that are generally my age. So instead of working with people of all age groups, I was able to specify exactly what I needed to do with it and how I could transfer the skills that I learned as a professional back into being a SLTA.
I guess I can add a little something there. It's, for me, my class personally, I like to, I'm there for the students whenever they need me, but I like to leave the communication up to the students as much as possible, because the course itself is very directive upon the amount of work that they put in, and I think their learning experience is kind of really based on what they go through, the process, the struggles they go through, the communication issues they have. So I really wanted to leave that to the students, but I think it is your job as an SLTA to kind of be there when things really do go awry. I know I had some communication issues with some community partners, so I tried contacting them as quickly as possible. I had some service learning issues that I could contact Lindsay and get in touch with her actually this week about. So there's just a lot of things that I like to leave up to the students for communication issues and things like that, but I'm always willing to help if a student needs me to.
So obviously the work that you guys have done this semester is amazing, and I feel confident being able to say that because I teach 112, and so Kayla's my counterpart. But how have you guys gone about making sure that we still have SLTAs next semester? Because as your faculty members, we would love you, and so we would love that help. And so how have you guys gone about making sure that your legacy is carried forward and the faculty are still being able to continue to be helpful?
First things first, I think it's important to put on a wonderful presentation to show you guys what it means to be an SLTA. Second, I think it's, I've talked about this numerous times. I think the whole personal growth thing with being an SLTA, I think it's really important to continue that growth and let people know that although you're performing service, although you're learning through your acts of service, it's really, there's a lot of room to grow internally and personally. And it's not, and she said earlier, it's not really selfish. It's really based on, you have these strengths that you can really build on. And I think it's, as an SLTA, you can jump in there head first and put yourself in a position where these strengths can be really useful and you can build on them. And I think if future SLTAs know that and we can project that to them, then they'll be willing to want to do that as well.
So within my course, it's a little different just because within the School of Music, most classes are only offered one semester a year. But we can go ahead and kind of pinpoint the students that are really excelling in this class and then kind of continue to monitor their progress across their next class, which is Clinical Foundations, where they still have to do a little bit of service learning, but it's more in an observation setting more than being an active member of it. And we can see what they're getting out of it and see if they would be a good fit for the course. And then that's where I could come and say to Dr. Register or Professor Amy Rogers-Smith, who is our other music therapy professor, and say, I think this person would be a wonderful candidate for an SLTA. Go ahead and take this list, marinate over it a little bit, and we'll see what's going to be the best for you.
For my class specifically, I mean, I talked to them and pretty much gave them a real quick run through of this presentation. And I mean, I have 2 people. There's supposed to be 3, but 2 people came today, which is awesome. And I think that's definitely a way to have people sign up to be an SLTA. And I've also spoke at a geology class that is looking into having an SLTA, and I gave a quick background on it and my experiences. And I think, honestly, just having an SLTA come in and kind of show, like, this is what you're going to be doing sort of thing is great to have future SLTAs.
So I think just looking for people that are passionate about the courses that they could potentially be an SLTA for. We always like to pick out students that, go above and beyond and want to stay involved with our course, but have already taken all the courses. And so this is another good option for them to stay involved with our program without actually being enrolled in a course. So.
Yeah, I've had students in my section come up to me and ask me, like, hey, so what do you do? Like, what are your main requirements? Like, what things do you do outside of class that we don't see? And there's been some that have expressed interest, so we've had a few that want to continue on and help with us.
Thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for coming. And we have handouts for everybody too.